Hey guys, I am Pixel Dan, and today we are going to be checking out the Masters of the Universe Origin Skeletor as he appeared in the 2002 series. That's right, my friends, or as many of you might call him, 2000X Skeletor. Really excited about the fact that these are in the Origins lineup. 40th anniversary for the brand, but it is now the 20th anniversary for the 2002 reboot, a show and a toy line that so many of us still hold so near and dear to our hearts. So I love seeing them get some attention and some love again for the 40th anniversary of this brand. And getting those were kind of like remakes to like update Masters of the Universe into the modern times, like in 2002. So kind of seeing them now brought backwards into a vintage style is kind of surreal, but also awesome. I don't know. I'm really excited about it. So of course he comes on that classic vintage card there, but he does have the 2002 logo as a sticker on the blister bubble, which I absolutely adore. And as we rotate this around to the backside, we got this amazing artwork of Skeletor up at the top. Look, he's tearing down the Mystic Wall. Oh man, so cool. And you can also see Evil and Beastman and Whiplash in the background there. And then down below that, we've got our cross-sell and our action feature call-out, just showing that this new figure can hold on to all of those accessories, and he's fully articulated. So let's go and get our new Skeletor opened up, and we will get a closer look at him. All right, we've got our 2000X inspired Skeletor outside of the packaging. Just like all the other figures in the Origins line, you can see he stands just shy of 6 inches tall in that 5.5 body style of the vintage toy line and what we've seen here with Origins so far. And if you've already watched my video on the 2000X inspired He-Man, I talked about this a lot in that video as well, so I will repeat myself a little bit here. But it's really interesting to see how the 2002 toy line was meant to completely redesign the vintage line into something different, but now we've taken concepts from that line and we've smashed it back into the vintage styling. So that's kind of fun. It's a neat thing to do, especially since we're celebrating the brand overall right now. But there are some instances where I feel like vintage-sizing the 2000X stuff works, and in some places it doesn't work as well for me. I do want to start with the head sculpt. First of all, I do love the face. I think the face looks really nice. I like that they gave him the glowing red eyes there, the little red dots. I think the teeth look great. He's even got the pointed teeth, which was something that the 2000X style Skeletor had. It's the hood itself that I'm not entirely sure that I'm in love with. And I think it's because it sits really high or something. I don't know. The head looks big, and I think part of that is that whole vintage sizing. That's like a weird word I just made up. the 2000X style Skeletor head, because Skeletor's head on the 2002 figure was much smaller. It was very small. So I don't know, something about this looks weird, and I can tell how they're trying to capture the look of that hood, but I don't know, it looks okay, but it does look a little off to me. Maybe it's like elongated or something. I don't know. I don't think it's bad. I actually think this looks okay, but there is something about the hood that I personally don't love. The armor itself is the same Skeletor armor that we've already had, but they did paint the top portions up here, the tassels, black, and we've got red in the center. That's to try to match it up a little bit more with what we saw in 2000X, although he did have a silver crossbones there too. The body is the same as what we've seen in the past. However, we do have new parts in the loincloth piece that he's wearing. That is a brand new piece, which is totally modeled after what he was wearing in the 2000X line. It even has the weird little face sculpted on there. I like that quite a bit. And the shin guards too, those are totally new. So instead of just like the normal boot pieces, we do have these extra shin guards. It does have a lot of extra sculpted details, which the 2002 line was known for. One thing I will say is they just gave him the normal Skeletor like beast feet here instead of like the toad feet. 2000X Skeletor had like normal toad feet, so I kind of would have liked to see that instead, but this is one of those cases where they either just reuse the parts to make it more vintage, or they reuse the parts to save some money, or a little bit of both. So we did get some new things going on with the shin guards, the loincloth, and the head, but the rest of this is just reused. He is a much more pale blue than what we've seen with the other Skeletors in this line so far, which again is a nice matchup to the way the 2002 action figure looked. So articulation-wise, you guys should know what to expect with this. It is a ball joint at the head, so you can remove this head there. You probably could do some part swapping, although the skin tone on this Skeletor is a bit different, but you can always match stuff up for your desired look, which is pretty cool. So the arms go outwards, forwards, backwards at the shoulders there. Also, you can remove the arms there at that socket. You got a single joint at the elbow, swivel at the elbow, swivel at the wrist, hinge joint at the wrist. The hands, of course, are also removable from those sockets. They're just peg joints there. You can turn the upper body at the waist, also detachable there at the waist. The legs can go outwards, forwards, backwards, swivels at the knee, bend at the knee, swivel at the ankle, and you can, of course, rock the ankle side to side. I'm sorry, it's not a swivel. You rock the ankle side to side, you move the ankle up and down, and we can also detach the boots there, which actually just comes off at those shin guards there. So yeah, that's something that is new as well to go with that part, but still functions like the normal boots that we see in this line. So now we come to the part where we get to talk about Skeletor's accessories, and first up, he's got a Havoc staff. However, it's just the same Havoc staff that we've already seen with the other Skeletors. Now, I do think it's molded in a bit of a deeper purple plastic there, but it is just the normal vintage-looking Havoc staff. Much like He-Man, I am finding the accessories a bit lacking here. Just because the 2002 Skeletor's Havoc staff had a much cooler design with a different shaped ram skull with the big horns that really twisted out. It was silver with bronze horns. I would have loved to see them do something like that for this figure rather than just recycling the standard vintage style Havoc staff. Now, they did give him his signature sword from the show, and this is kind of cool. I will say I like the look of it. It's a great sculpt. You can see it does have kind of like the eagle design on one side, and then kind of like the, I guess this was like the bat type design, or like the ram horns design on the other side. The whole thing is solid, and it's molded in this glittery purple plastic. So it's actually pretty cool looking. Like, it's got some nice shiny glitter in there, and I don't know if that's coming across, but that's pretty neat. But the downside here is that the sword does not split into two. It is one solid sword. Also, the sword was supposed to be painted two different colors. The one side was purple, but the other side was supposed to be bronze, and then the blades are supposed to be silver. So even though they didn't add the extra paint deco on there, I still feel that they should have made the sword split into two, just because that was such an iconic thing for this particular Skeletor. It wasn't just seen on the toy, but in the TV series, he regularly split those swords into two and spun them around and did crazy stuff. And I think it's a real shame that this sword does not split into two. I think that totally negates this sword even existing if it doesn't do the thing that it should do. So count me as pretty bummed out by this. I mean, seriously, like, you can bring in the actual sword from the 2002 line. Here, you can see the difference. Should be purple here, should be bronze here, and we should be able to split it into two halves. And this new figure can actually hold this sword pretty good. And I gotta say, it looks pretty awesome. Would have loved to have this actually come with this figure. So before we move on to some of the regular comparison times, I do think it's worth noting that we did get a Keldor in this line. And when we bring Keldor in here alongside this 2000X Skeletor, you can see that we've got some pretty major color differences here. Keldor is a very, very bright blue. Now, of course, this can be explained where his transition to Skeletor sort of drains the color out of him a little bit, but we do not have matching skin tones here whatsoever. So swapping those parts may not match up so well, but, you know, there's different things you could do. You could always put the Skeletor head over here if you wanted to. Here's one of the other things that is worth noting, because Keldor did not come with this piece, and he probably should have, but look, it's removable from this Skeletor. So I suppose if you always want to do this too, if you want to improve your Keldor's look, I can give him the proper loincloth. The purples don't match up exactly, but that's pretty good. That's serviceable. So that's something neat that is definitely worth noting here. All right, guys, it's comparison time. So let's go ahead and start by standing him alongside that 2002 version of Skeletor that this particular figure is based off of. Here you can see what I was talking about with like the size of the head and the hood, but you can see the similarities too. You can definitely see that they took the looks from this figure and they just made it look vintage with the Origins figure. And it works in some spots, but in other areas it doesn't. I think my biggest gripe has got to be with the sword. And I do think it's worth standing him alongside the first release of Skeletor in this line. I know we've got several Skeletors already, but let's just look at him alongside standard Skeletor here. Again, you got big differences in the colors. The purples are different. The blues are brighter. It's just much more vibrant on that standard version of Skeletor. So this guy is much more muted with the darker purple as well. I actually kind of like that. I think it's pretty cool looking, but you know, you can always mix and match parts for your desired Skeletor. So there you go, my friends. That is a look at the 2000X inspired Skeletor action figure from the Masters of the Universe Origins line. I mean, overall, I do like this. I'm going to keep harping on the weapons. I really think it was a missed opportunity not to get more accurate weapons here. I think there were some areas where trying to make these guys fit into vintage didn't work as well as they intended, because it really does miss out on some of the cool things that were actually created for the 2002 line that made that line kind of iconic in its own right. I would have liked to see those transition over to these new Origins figures. Nonetheless, I am glad these exist. And we've actually got some nice 2000X representation in the line, especially on the bad guys side now. We've got an Evil Lyn in those colors. We've got a Cronus. We've got the Keldor. We've got this Skeletor. So that's pretty cool because it's the 20-year anniversary of that particular reboot, which is crazy to think that is essentially vintage now. I am old. So this brand new Skeletor action figure is starting to hit store shelves right now. I ordered mine through BigBadToyStore.com. So happy hunting, my friends, and until next time.